it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is how to tell if someone who you feel is a female psychopath, are they your enemy or are they a good influence in your life? I think that's a great viewer question because it really helps bring to light how confusing a relationship with someone who is psychopathic can become. And I've received a lot of questions from viewers who are specifically dealing with and grappling with someone who is a female psychopath, particularly male. So whether you're male or female, whether this individual in your life is male or female, I think it really applies to both. Because really when we look at this question, is this person against you or are they for you? So there's this deception that you can't really make a distinction yourself. You're kind of teetering on a seesaw. You're on the fence. You're walking a tightrope. You're walking a wire. You're not knowing, and you're keeping this very delicate balance. So I think that's a great viewer question. And balance is key towards healing through this sort of relationship and the confusion and the sort of gaslighting and brainwashing and terror of self-doubt that can ensue after this. But before we get started, I want to give a super huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel. Thank you so much for your support, your contributions. Is for viewers like you who really need this content, this material, this very specific niche on how to really sort of extrapolate and extract results and sort of get down to the bottom line and help you to move forward in a somewhat distinct and rapid way. So thank you so much. And absolutely positively, if this has been a positive resource for you, the Peace and Harmony channel, we would love to hear from you. Please do participate. You can donate at the PayPal Donate Now button here on the About section of YouTube. So thank you so much. It's great to hear from you. So really looking in, is this person who is psychopathic, are they an enemy? Are they against you? You know, they always say, keep your enemies close. Well, one thing I want you to really understand is this statement. Is it your enemy or is it your inner me? Is this person outside of you, not supportive, yet there's this sort of deception and trickery going on? Or are they really good for the inner me? And I think that's a good way to look at it because you can really check in and find your truth, really get to the core, and really find your right answer on what you need to do when you check in with the inner me. So if you have to check in with them, if you have to kind of evaluate them and see if it's good for you, then that's a good indicator that this person perhaps is not in your best interest. Your inner me has been there all the while. Your inner me is always on. Your subconscious mind, which is where your beliefs reside, where they live, where they're on 24/7, even when you dream. That's why when you dream, oftentimes if you've had good sleeping life, you have a good waking life. So if your sleep is disrupted, your sleep is a restorative, regenerative, repairing process, and it helps you to regenerate and make good decisions, to think clearly. So if it's especially important to catch yourself upon your waking hours, when you're really fresh, when you're really sharp, because you're coming out of that delta wave state and you're getting into that sort of creative, very intuitive space, which is a prime window for you to really look at and focus on. Because as you get going with your day-to-day, you get distracted. You don't think as clearly. You become more impulsive. And then the texts coming in, the emails come in, the pictures come in, and then you are distracted. And you've sort of overrided your inner me. So your inner me is what you need to spend time with and really capitalize, really make good with those waking hours, with those waking moments when your mind is fresh. And really begin to learn that those are your most valuable hours, especially and also, towards bedtime when your mind is sort of settling down. You're getting into a different brain wave state. You need to understand that there's delta, beta, alpha, theta. There's different brain wavelengths, just like light has a waves. So, really incandescent bright lights, very dim lights, very warm or cold. So you need to understand that your brain waves are kind of the same way. When you're in a very restful, peaceful state, you're in the delta, you're in the slower brainwave state. And as you emerge out of that, and I think it's the theta that it goes into, I could be wrong, but that's not the point. You can research it if you like. What I'm calling your attention to is that your inner me is your most prized possession. Your inner me is your most prized possession. You need to take ownership of your pricelessness and your value, your internal life, because that taps into really what you want to attract, what you want to align to. It's your true values. So if you neglect and ignore that, and you're in a relationship with someone who is female psychopathic, someone who is taking advantage, someone who is overriding your conscious mind and deceiving you through the ways that they do. The female psychopath, and I know that this is the good stuff, people want to understand, how does the female psychopath deceive? You have to understand that they are planted in your environment. They don't have a regular sort of flow, attention span, and focus that the rest of society does. They're sort of your observers. They're sort of planted in your environment, like what might seem to be a lighthouse, but they're really a dark house. They attract others through a darkness, through a subconscious pivoting, if you will, and they're able to, because they're able to observe people and behavior in a much different way and draw something out of it, which leads them to their ability to manipulate and deceive in a way that most people would not even dream of. They would not even, to save, their last dollar, would they even do that? If they're in a poverty-stricken state, they wouldn't think, even for survival's sake, the way that a psychopath does. That's, I guess, the best way for me to describe it, is that they think a lot differently than people who are just going to a work event, they're going to a family event, they're looking at their career, they're looking for how they can maximize their draw, their take through, and allow their deception, talent, quote unquote, because talentum, a sum of money, is what we're talking about. So a lot of people get very triggered when I say that the female psychopath is talented. They're actually, this quote unquote personality type of being sort of antisocial creates an intraspecies predator. They are like the lion. A lion instinctively knows where to bite, okay? They instinctively know where to go for, okay? They don't have to teach a lion, hey, when you're running after that gazelle, go and bite the jugular. It is in their instinct. That is their, they dominate. They are the king of the jungle, the king of the savannah. So they don't, do this without looking at their actual behavior. A female psychopath is much like the same way. They will bite you on the sexual jugular. They will bite you on the self, inner me value. They will puncture and allow you to basically bleed out emotionally. And you'll know this because you can almost feel yourself bleeding out to them. You can feel a loss of energy. What feels like attraction, people get confused and they don't know how to evaluate their inner states because they've brushed up against this interspecies predator. So usually hitherto in their life experience, one has not encountered this type of female. You might have encountered a lot of different females with different qualities, different relationships that you have, but this person most likely is going to stand out a lot. They are planted in the environment. They seem to be very stoic, meaning they will kind of stop and gaze. They don't seem to have to, quote unquote, engage in a lot of the other work behavior that other people do. The same family or relationship commitments that most other people do. In other words, these are the people who observe and watch and flee the scene. They're taking advantage of that fight or flight. They will plant themselves in very sort of, the word that I'm looking for right now is very calculated ways. So again, there's something that's sort of unnatural about them. And unnatural meaning the way in which they present themselves. They seem to stop where no one else would stop. They seem to pose where no one else would pose. They seem to wear colors and designs that most other people would not wear, and sort of position themselves using sort of the background, and not like what I'm doing right now, sort of sitting here, but they will do things that sort of position themselves so certain qualities of them pop out that you are not aware of. So, whereas this is like a judgmental position, you put your hands on your hips and it enlarges your body area and it appears as if they're judging you. So they might, they do this and then, sort of, with the wrists, and then they're sort of judging you but bringing you forward. So it's this mixed message. So you're looking for the attraction, which a female psychopath will expose vulnerable parts of their body to you, particularly the wrists and the neck, in other words, like this, and then draw you forward and then, sort of expose this and then, but with judgment. So it's this mixed message, which you're not looking for. And their body also oftentimes will be very sinusoidal or sort of, curving themselves like this. And their body shape, they will use to mimic shapes, letters, instruments, designs, other things in the environment. So you then subconsciously equate them with certain qualities or characteristics which you have an association with. So it's sort of this neuro-linguistic programming where they're then taking advantage of things like the way your eyes move. So, they study the direction of people's eyes, what their eyes look at, and then they position themselves there. For example, where a lot of people should be standing, they can be sitting and sort of have their mouth out, whatever. You get my drift. It's very subconscious programming. So it gets you into that brainwave state, which you're not consciously aware of. So they sort of slide underneath the door. They sort of slink on in and weave themselves in to people's subconscious. So it's undetected, like a female stealth bomber. I mean, that's just the only way, meaning they're under the radar, or what they think is the radar. In other words, they're able to observe and assess people, and then they make their move. So it's like a lion, a female psychopath is like a lion in the brush. In other words, they're completely undetectable. They've got their head down. They've got, what appears to be their eyes. They're unattentive. Yet they'll sort of pop up when they see, and kind of, they know the track of the gazelle. They know who's the baby. They know who's the hurt one. And bam, they're going for it. They see an open strike zone. They see when to go and where to go. And so it's this assessment that is so important for you to understand that a female psychopath engages in before they look and make their target and their strike. They've got it all worked out in their mind. They know how to read people in a way that you would not think. So if you look at a lot of the violent criminals and such, they will tell you they can see how people walk. They can see how people hold their head, their eyes. So they are looking for this hanging fruit, I will call it, which would be their targets. They can pick it out of a crowd. When they're looking for a job, they're going to look for a certain type of organization. In families, for marriage, they have a very parasitic, lifestyle, meaning that there's something that they are pulling out, which oftentimes you are not aware of, which is the rug that you're standing on. And then you wonder why you're toppling over and doing somersaults, backflips, breaking a rib, breaking a wrist, your foot is in a sling, and not to mention your other private parts, which are in a sling also. You're wondering, what the heck just happened? What did I do to myself? It's because they've betrayed you through the subconscious. They've gotten in underneath the door. They've slid in through the cracks. They are the greatest observers of this, and they plant themselves accordingly. So in terms of, are they an enemy or are they supportive of the inner me? The inner me, which you need to relate to within yourself, because if you share it with this psychopath, this is going to be used against you. Unequivocally, your sentiments, your values, your goals, your aspirations, if you start giving this to them, they're going to start taking this away. What you give is what they're going to take. So your deepest sentiments, your deepest values, your prized possessions, what's really you, what you really want to evolve into. They've already got a design on how to capture, trap, and trade this. Capture, trap, and trade. It is very serious, and it's important to sort of be able to see this in a warm and cozy light, because it's a coldness which most people can't even fathom. It's sub-zero. It's a polar vortex of emotions, and so you think of cold and the freezer and how it makes everything frozen. It can very much do this. There's a paralysis that people can experience, as well as a self-doubt as a result of an experience with them, because of this ability for them to betwixt and sort of bewitch others. And bewitch, in fact, I'm going to just sort of do a good Google search on this, because there was a show back in the day called Bewitched. And I'm just going to see what this means, to bewitch somebody. We're just going to look at this real quick to see if it's to enchant and delight, or cast a spell. To enchant. So they're very enchanting. So they do stand out. It is, and it comes from the Middle English be, meaning thoroughly, and witch. So be is a suffix of witch, which is to cast a spell on, to be cold as a witch's blanket, T*T, very cold, from the Old English Wicca, which was a type of a type of religion. So it's sort of pagan. It's sort of witchcraft. It's sort of magic powers. And you might think of them, as wearing the cloak, the hat, the pointed hat, etc. But they're, like an enchantress, and a necromancer, someone who practiced necromancy, a wizard or a magician. So there's this feeling of magical abilities, not spiritual, which helps you with your inner me, but something which replaces your inner me with an enemy. It's replacing your inner me with an enemy. So you become an enemy to yourself. They are very enigmatic, meaning they have an enigma, a puzzle, something that leaves you fascinated. There's a fascination that you will feel with this enchantress, the female psychopath. They're different from your every ordinary gal. They're not the girl next door. They're not the secretary. They're not the smart, there's something that's really enchanting. So it can have this allure. It is like super glue for, fly paper. You fly there and you're stuck. Your feet are in their kingdom no matter where you go. Your inner me becomes replaced. For a lot of people, they want to know, how did I become susceptible to this? Because they can find you when you're at a crossroads. They're finding you kind of when you're down a crossroads, which is like you're maybe jumping from one phase in your life to another, and it's that perfect storm. A relationship with a psychopath will meet you when you're in a place in your life, which is like the perfect storm. It's the perfect conditions. Like you see a lot of storm activity when warm and cold collide, and then you've got lightning, you've got thunder, you've got winds, that are then, picking up momentum over the ocean. You've got, a lot of elements that then create this, this perfect storm. When an ocean is cold and winds sweep across it and they pick up the temperature, and then it collides with this other warmer mass, you've got a lot going on. So for a lot of people at this crossroads, they can capitalize on this and be like the answer to your prayers. So they can see and sense, oh, look, this person doesn't have a lot of technological devices. Where here I come with the perfect gift. Here comes, your upgrade to your phone, how to do this app, how to do this video thing, and these little things that seem to make this huge difference in your life. This is part of the enchanting, the, planting of seeds. They're planting themselves and seeds, which then they know how this ripples forth and the effect of themselves in other people's lives. They are keenly aware of this. This leads you into, how do you know? Because you want to be able to know within yourself. And this is also taps into another viewer question, which is, how do I know if it's me being too sensitive, or is this something I have to change? So they're right at that crossroads. So you have to understand, is it supportive of the inner me, or are they an enemy? And right off the bat, you should be able to answer this. But the problem is that it's going to become very, very close. It's a close call. It's a close race. It's a race of millimeters. The inch by inch. It's the guy was 1 inch over the finish line. That makes him the winner. That's really what we're looking at here. You have to get down. You have to be that inch ahead. That makes you the difference. It's that final inch. You need to go into your subconscious and ask yourself this, but it's that state which the female psychopath will make disrupted. They will disrupt you and keep you from those very moments, those meditative, fine moments where you know the truth and you sort of sweep over it, you get distracted over it. Here comes a phone call, here comes an email, here comes a picture, and boom, you're back off to the races with this person. And so, what's really shocking is that all of this whole thing, even if it goes on for years, this whole thing is pre-designed and pre-calculated. They know, where they're going to cut you free right at the perfect time. They've got it already worked out. And then we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They have this, they have that. And you've gone and you've been hit by like just this tailwind. So to know, you have to be able to check in with your inner me and sort of realize and ask yourself this question. Are they supportive of the inner me, or is this the enemy? And before you get distracted, what do you need to admit to yourself? Because it's oftentimes that very state which is so confused, so bemuddled, and filled with so much fear, terror, horror, confusion, that you can't even get to that sort of that meditative, cool, calm, collected space. And so you need to ask yourself of this and really evaluate, are they a plant? Are they planted in the environment? Are they sort of in this sort of observative state? Is there something about them that you sort of had this sneaky feeling about, but you trusted them anyway? You had a sneaky feeling about them, but you trusted them anyway because of some little thing that they did that you needed, that you were like a starving skeleton grabbing for a crust of bread. There's like a song in a Sting song that like relates to that image. And realize the subconscious mind works through imagery. You need to become as a child again. If you are dealing with a female psychopath, become as a child. Is that in the Bible? Children live on imagery. They love images. Images of who they want to be are formulated in those childhood years. You as an adult need to go back to this child state, this playful state, especially right when you wake up. You need to realize this is your really valuable time. And do that discovery journal. Even if you can only write a page, write whatever comes out. And you need to look at those little snippets and your I need to's, I want to, I desire, you need to really write those down, and you need to repeat them and rehearse and rememorize them really quickly, because those are your golden nuggets. That's the golden ring presenting itself to you. Here is the golden ring that you need to be committed to. It's shiny, bursting forth with life. It's got light beams flashing off of it. It's warm. You could go like this and go, wow, ain't that beautiful? You know, the host, this is, you know, if you're a Catholic, the body of Christ, this is the body of the divine intervening with you, throwing you that ring of commitment, you know, to save yourself. Are you going to grab it? Are you going to look at it? Are you going to listen to it? Are you going to gaze upon it? And are you going to make a commitment and realize what that is? And know that that's for your inner me, your inner life, that golden beam that is there with you. It should feel warm, cozy, inviting, healed, whole. It should make you feel that you are whole, that inner life should be respected and nurtured, not deceived. And once you are able to clearly snap out of that and say, I'm going to snap out of it, let's snap out of it for just a week, a day, an hour. Let me snap out of it and see if my inner me really knows what's going on. Your inner me will know. You have to be able to look at those fine moments. Do this today or tomorrow, right when you wake up, or have some meditative time for yourself, and do that sort of inner check-in, you know, and being able to own the truth. And, you know, and then how do you know? How do you know? Because you will know. How do you know? Because you will know. Just like when you see, you know, from how we've just described, okay, maybe let's do this. Let's do a quick little snapshot of the female psychopath, and you will know. So just like a big dog knows it can chomp on a smaller dog, just like a bigger shark knows it can eat a little fish, it knows. It's an instinct, okay? So you really need to check in on your instinct. Not all the advertising, not all the stuff you've had with them before, but we need to have you get into your instinct, because that is what's been unplugged, okay? And you've been fed this need to conform to the seed that is planted by this individual, okay? Remember the seed, remember the planter, remember this, remember the deliberate, and remember the intraspecies predator, okay? If you get nothing else, just give a quick snapshot and then realize that you will know. Just like when you come across a pretty flower, oh, I know, isn't that a pretty, that's your instinct. No one has to teach you what is beautiful. This is your instinct. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So this enemy also is in the eye of the beholder. Follow me on this, because your instinct knows, despite all the whatever is put on top of it, the sugar coating, the deception you've fallen for, the brainwave state that's made engineered chaos and made you off track, fall, maybe I should fall for it, that stuff. Okay, here we go. All that happy crap, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so quick snapshot of the female psychopath. Someone who lacks conscience. They lack morality. They lack a sense of good, bad, right or wrong, and emotions. Okay, so they do not have feelings. Think of a cold-blooded snake, okay? That is what we have going on underneath. They are cold-blooded. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Cold, cold, cold. They can put on a warm and fuzzy look. They can put on a smile that is enchanting, bewitching, beguiling. You feel glued to them for some reason. They stand out. They have a different sort of flow to their body. They are sort of giving a very showy, or what seems to be very obscure presence, using their body language. Things that they're leaning over, that they're sort of making their body into shapes that sort of use the negative space to sort of enhance them, if you will. They're very well aware of how to make their body into shapes So, for example, they can even, like let's say your name is Kevin. They'll do, this a lot. You'll see that they're sort of using their body language to create shapes, images, the way that they fit their body into backgrounds, corners on sofas. They're doing their legs a specific way. This is all designed to attract the male sex, okay, the male sexual instinct. You feel allured, 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 seduced, 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 enchanted, beguiled, fascinated, and it seems to come at this pivot in your life when you are at your weakest. They're going in with their talents and they're saying, you no longer have to suffer. I will take you out of this and I will create this illusory imaginary kingdom where you are with all your needs met and you are oftentimes violated in sexual manners or just boundary violation, overstimulating, hyper arousing, distracting, and then you feel a return to your regular life is no longer where you want to be. You feel you want to move, give it all up for this person. Here's the key, keys to my car, keys to the office, keys to my passwords. You feel this enormous amount of trust, like you want to lose it all because you are in pain from something else. And here comes the salve. Okay? Now, do your gut check. Is this person with your instinct? Allow yourself for the answer to come together and allow it, once you have the answer, write it down. And repeat your answer again and again and again. And what do you know? This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Love you. Love life.